the first item on the agenda, the 100 Main Street. We missed you last time. We had a short meeting. So I don't know if you have new material or if we're just looking at the material submitted at the last.
Well, we need to obviously look at the material that was submitted for the last meeting. But we did have a good meeting with the planning board on Thursday night, and Javier suggested that we take a look at an option. And what I'm hoping tonight is that we can show you, it's gotten down to where we're just trying to figure out how to handle the, where the barn is. So we've got what you've seen, which is, we informally spoke, and you were indicating that it lacked the simplicity that you felt that had been the outcome of the planning board and architectural review board's joint meeting. I think Rob summarized it by saying that the dormers needed to be smaller and fewer. And Javier actually asked us to consider what would happen if we had no dormers. At first, there was a little confusion on that probably on my part, because I thought what they were suggesting is, could you do it without a dormer, without changing the roof? And of course, the answer is no, because you don't have the height you need. But then Javier made it clear that the idea was figure out how high would you have to raise it to keep it just the simple barn form with no dormers. So we've got that tonight for you as well. I guess probably the fastest thing to do is just kind of bring you up with some of the stuff. We submitted this earlier, which was all the different iterations we've gone through. We obviously have one more to this that we'll add for the next submission. This is the plan that you had for the last meeting. This shows the dormers still on the aqueduct side. It has the 4 residential units, the 6 parking spaces. It has parking on the ground floor, and then 4 units that are small units. They range from 800 square feet up to 1,000 square feet, 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom. There is an issue that's still being resolved, though I think we're headed in the right direction, with is this 2 buildings on 1 parcel? Is there an issue with that? The planning board asked us to go to the zoning board for an interpretation. So we're going to go to them at their September meeting and ask specific questions about, is there a limit of how many principal buildings you can have on a single parcel? And the second question is, if you are combining buildings, to what extent does the construction have to be shared? There's a feeling by some people that it has to be conditioned space, but there's nothing in either the state code or the Dobbs Ferry code that says that. So we're looking for the zoning board to interpret it. That said, what we have here is still an open connection between what's new and what's existing. So this would be a deck that would be off of those 2 units. The other thing that we did on this, though I'm understanding it's not necessarily perceived as a solution, it was just a response. One of the AHRB members had noted that they weren't totally in favor of the idea of the open walkways. We had already enclosed the stairs, so in the plan we submitted, we enclosed the walkway that goes to the units. So that's what you're seeing between those 2 masses. So it doesn't have any open walkways at this point. Personally, I think it's nice to have it open, but we're really not ready for an architectural approval. We're really looking to get done with the planning board so that we can get to that next step. So that's something that I think we'll be able to talk about more in the future if we get there. You saw this earlier. This was just the streetscape going down the street. This is the design we came up with since Thursday night, which is you have not seen, and it's a change that handles the structure along the aqueduct totally differently. I think it's probably hard to see with this in the way. Here's the roof plan of that, which has no dormers on it. What we've effectively done is raised the roof of the structure that's along the aqueduct to the minimum height that we can do and still have usable space on the second floor. It basically has a wall plate at 5 feet. So what we do is we get belly bumper windows on the aqueduct side, but it gives us the square footage that we would need on the second floor for those to be duplex units, where we basically have, kitchen, living, dining on the first floor, and on the second floor, 2 small bedrooms and a bathroom. The height on it is not as tall as, it's almost the same height as where we were at with the interior spaces when we had the dormers going up to that height. We've put dimensions on it. I think at this point, we're 10 feet taller than the existing barn is from eave to eave. The ridges are less of a distance because we've dropped the roof pitch a little bit on that. What it does do is it gives you, actually I'll just get to the elevation that kind of shows that one side. I can do that. This is the elevation that's facing the aqueduct at that point. It's a much cleaner, much simpler. It has no dormers. It has straight eave. It has 4 small windows on the second floor with a top of the window at 4 feet. And then downstairs it has 2 double hungs and 2 other small windows. So the number of windows facing the aqueduct is minimal. The ends of the building are also kept very, very clean and simple with the fenestration. I don't know if you need to go through any of this stuff. I mean, I'm assuming that if you have enough interest in us pursuing this, that you'd ask me to make a submission and we'd give this to you for the next meeting. But I don't know if you want me to spend the time going through it, since you haven't really had a chance to look at it. That's a question.
Right, I understand that.
We actually reduced the site coverage minimally. That wasn't an intent, but just by the time we got things worked out, we were able to make the garage structure, where the garage structure is, we reduced that from 27 feet to 26 feet in width. Then what we did is we looked at taking that concept, following from what the planning board said that night, not realizing the significance of that fewer and smaller. We looked at what would happen with the different ways of approaching it. This is the elevation that is the result of the conversation we had with Javier. This is similar to what we had, but greatly flattening the roof pitches that come up from the dormers so that it basically seems much less significant. I don't really like this one. I prefer not to have to do it. We looked at what would happen if we just did the 4 small dormers. The problem there is we don't get adequate floor area in the bedrooms for them to be considered rooms in the state. And focusing in on the fewer, we said what would happen if we brought the windows together and just did a simple stack with 2 dormers instead of the 4, and that would actually work. That gives us the square footage that we'd need for those to be usable rooms on the second floor.
The ridge height is?
The ridge height on the 3 are the same. The ridge height on the one that eliminates the dormers is obviously, it's about 3 to 4 feet taller.
And this is the ridge height compared to the existing one, which will be about 4 or 5 feet lower.
Right, correct. About 3 to 4 feet.
Okay.
Do you have more, I don't think we need to go through your planning. I mean, we see it's
Yeah.
a 2-bedroom duplex. Do you have other views of these?
We haven't done anything SketchUp-wise or anything like that. I didn't want to do that if this was a waste of our efforts. If this is a direction that this board feels is useful, we'd certainly be willing to go that way and bring it to you for the next meeting. We could show you what it is in 3D. I mean, one of the things we're doing here is we're getting the building so much simpler. The need for the 3-dimensional representations, I think, starts to be simplified.
We'll go back to the side elevation of this barn with the dotted line showing. Yeah, there we go.
You mean the original?
This one. So.
Yeah.
We're seeing the original barn. Thank you. We're
Yep.
seeing the original barn here.
Yep.
And we're seeing the extra, how many feet? You said First you
It's-
said 3 to
yeah,
4
this-
plus 3 to 4.
This is dimensioned actually as 10 feet.
10 feet.
The eave to eave, because this is a flatter roof pitch,
Yeah.
this is around 7 to 8 feet in difference. The thing to remember here, of course, is that if you're standing on the aqueduct facing that direction, right now, the building blocks your view to the west. It's not as though you would be blocking a view with this. You would be affecting your ability to see the sky.
Yeah, this conversation was never really about a direct view that you'd be blocking. Obviously, there's a building there. It's taller than your sight line. It's really about a proportion, which you know that.
Yeah.
I think that this direction is, when we talked about, and as I read Rob Lane's letter, which summarizes some of the issues that we discussed at our joint meeting, I see a note about us not rigidly adhering to the original scale of the barn if you were to replace it. However, I feel that the other part of that conversation was that it departing too greatly from the scale was also a problem. And I'm kind of under the impression that this, while we do appreciate the simplicity of what happens here compared to what we've seen previously, this, I think, crosses that threshold in my mind as to where we've gone out of scale with what the current barn is. And I'm not sure how everyone else feels about this. I think, our conversation was, do you need parking? Do you not need parking? How far can you push this down? So we decided that parking was essential.
Yep.
Not my vote, but that was a group consensus.
Yep.
And the exchange was that for the parking, you then couldn't add another story, right? You can add the story or you can have the parking. You can't have both, because then the building gets too big and then we're back where we were 3 months ago.
Yeah, I don't know
when we
that
started
that's certainly not how I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it that if you have 2 stories and you eliminate the parking, you've made the building much smaller. If you have 2 stories and you provide the parking, you're that much taller. Not that you can't have 2 stories above parking.
Not can't, but that's the position that we've all taken since day one.
Then you should make a decision based on that. You should make that clear and make your recommendations, make your decisions on it.
Sure, no, I thought that actually, I'm certain that I've been fairly clear all along. It may not be the consensus of everyone on both boards, but I haven't been equivocal about that. So if you're coming here tonight to ask our opinion about having 2 stories above parking, 2 full stories, my opinion is that I think you've gone overscale with the barn element, which is ostensibly why you're here.
Right, and that's a decision that we would appreciate you making, because I think, we're not getting, I don't think there's any place we can go that's 1 story above parking.
No, and I think that the problem with the previous submissions is that the dormer was essentially a 2nd story because it encompassed the whole width of the barn. I think now you have a scheme, I don't know, a few slides back on the upper right, that has a dormer that's proportioned to the barn. So I think, there you go, the previous one. I mean, I think, we're hitting on a scale of structure that is, close to the barn and not overwhelmed by these additional elements, so.
Well, as I said when I presented, that one works too. So the one on the left is a direct response to the request, and I don't mean to represent that Javier said do that and we'll say yes. It was more like, have you looked at this? So we've looked at that. We want to present that again to the planning board. But as I explained, when we went through this series of steps, we came up with that one too. If this board feels that's the right direction, it's certainly simpler, certainly cleaner. Those were 2 words that were used by some people on the board. If that is a direction that this board would think that we should pursue, then we would pursue that.
Right, so my position is still the same. And the second point of the letter the memorandum that we wrote is about massing and maintaining the character of the old barn, and character means maintaining the scale, maintaining the massing, height, simplicity, materials in a way. I think from all of them, the virtues of this one is at least the ridge is simpler. The dormers are not overwhelming the original simplicity of the structure. From all what I've seen, this is probably the most successful in terms of providing a direction. The other ones, I think I agree with Michael, yeah, what he said, having said that this is departing from the simplicity and scale of the original barn. It's already another thing.
It departs because it's a little bit larger. In terms of the lines, it's actually the one that's most consistent.
It's scale-wise, it's already overwhelming. It's one of the things that we all like is about the scale, the relationship of the aqueduct to the existing barn. This, I guess, is going, in terms of scale, is going on the other direction that I personally think that this is more successful. In any event, so far it's, I don't know, more than the memo says. In terms of the walkways, I just want to make sure that I don't have a preconceived idea on open walkways. I don't think it's a problem.
I know Dipty felt differently on it, and what we would do is when we get to the point of actually considering the architectural design, we can certainly investigate those different options.
That's something for later.
I still have a problem with that tall element and the vertical circulation. They just seem so disjointed to me with the rest of the design.
Where are you seeing the vertical circulation?
I mean
Can we go to the?
Yeah, is that still there, or
Is what still there?
I mean this.
the brick?
Yeah, that massing is still there.
And then above that, I just still feel that that's so out of proportion with the rest of the structure, whether you go with, one option or the other. It's strange.
It's tall. It meets codes, it's fully compliant, and gives you 2 bedrooms in that unit, which would really be nice. It doesn't have it's not as though it has an adverse impact on anyone in any way.
It's still so out of proportion with the rest of the structure. It's just
I
strange.
think two-dimensional drawings show it that way. I don't think it would feel that way at all. I think it actually has, when you realize that how the massing works with it, I think the other forms out in front, that receding and popping up through it, I think actually is just something that gives it a little bit more interest. I mean, as much as it seems, to go to a different project, one of the conversations we had Thursday night was what would be able to do to conceal the building. And it struck me as I think that's an odd, not this project, different project. It struck me as an odd thing that what we're trying to do is prevent people from seeing anything that we're building new. And this other project, to my feeling, it's you'd want to be walking up the street and see this building, not have it somehow concealed and hidden. So this in a way, I feel the same way. This is a fairly prominent corner, and having something there that's strong and doesn't shirk from it, I think is a good idea.
The only comment, and I think my
only what you say, I hear.
my opinion regarding the vertical element, I don't have a problem with it. The only thing that I would like to see is if this is the best place with the best views in the building. I think should be lighter.
Yeah, actually the other side is the side with the,
But I think that
That's a good suggestion, that if it somehow could be made lighter, it may not look.
We started with it being very glass, and there seemed to be negative reactions to that. So, but again, I think that's, if we're talking about the articulation of the massing through materials and details,
We can see that.
that's ARB once we know if we've got a project that we can work on.
I'll buy that.
I think that something should be said, but I don't know. Nobody wants to hide beautiful buildings. Those comments occur when something is lacking from a design element, because no one in their right mind should be proposing that. And I think that and I don't know what project you're talking about, but we've heard that come up on other things, right? We hear it from time to time. Put it below something, that's all we talked about at Rivertown Square. What we said is make it beautiful. And I think that we're all responding to a thing that doesn't feel quite right, and I think Dipti pointed that out, and we agree with her, which is that there is something awkward about the detached stair and the mass that pops up. Now,
You don't see the detached stair, though. You can't see the stair in any way.
what do you mean?
That's a masonry structure.
I know it's like a separate miniature building.
It attaches. It's fully integrated with the mass of the building. There's no gap there.
Show us the plan.
This building comes all the way around to this point.
Yeah, but it's treated, the material, the roof, it's treated differently. It
We
stands
treated
out on its own.
all of the lower roofs were treated as a flatter pitch and done out of metal instead of the shingle. Again, if the feeling is it should match in pitch and materials, that's an easy thing to talk about.
I don't know what the right answer is, but right now it feels something's off.
I don't think it's off because it has a staircase inside.
I think that is a premature discussion. I think we need to, obviously,
Well, I
there are a lot of
think you
things
have
that
to
need to
tread
come in balance.
cautiously here, because we end up in this position where, the planning board approves something, and then, we're back here, and it's, well, nothing can be done. The planning board said the plan is approved, and I don't want to get there. I want to
Nobody
air our
wants to be there.
concerns now to the
Yeah.
planning board, who some of members
I-
are
I-
here,
The chair
and
of whom is
hopefully
here,
others
the
are
audience is here.
listening.
I guess I think I am in agreement with Michael that element needs to be worked out. The
And
stair.
I don't know,
agree.
Patty, make it a glass box. Do whatever you think will make it beautiful, and then we'll all come here.
Yeah.
We'll be
No,
done in
I mean,
3
looking
minutes.
at this, I mean, we're still trying to play with massing, and we're definitely following from what we're hearing without knowing whether what we're hearing has been heard accurately, because that's why we have to draw it and show it. I've never walked in here and said, well, this is what you told me to do, right? So we hear it and then we show it, and sometimes we hit it exactly what you're looking for, and other times it's like, no, that's not what I said. What I meant was this. So the idea of the massing is my concern. How many stories this is and how big the footprint is, and the fact that it has parking underneath, I think are things that get locked in by site plan review. Materials, nuances of detailing of how the roofs work, pitches on roofs, materials on roofs. I think that's it.
It's not just one member's concern. That's all I want to
Right.
make clear. It's all of our concern. So, do you have any other items to present? I think you heard from us.
I think
you
that's
needed to
fine.
hear.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of audience members here, particularly for this project. Does anyone care to say anything?
You guys have said it all.
Okay, great. Okay, we can cut to the chase.
And just
Thank you.
so that it's this, I should be furthering the idea of this and then seeing if there's something we can do about that. Cool, thank you.
This is a referral, no action?
This is a referral.
Okay. Thank you, Patty.
You don't want me touching nothing? Okay.
Next up, 31 Maple Street.
Yeah. I'm hoping we're far enough on this one that we don't need to go through all the stuff that we kind of already did. But if we need to, we can do it. And I go back with materials. We have all that here. I think it came down really to 2 meetings ago. What you asked us to do
Yeah.
was kind of document the sky exposure plane issue. We had a little bit of an informal conversation after the last meeting when I wasn't here early enough to get into all the details. That's close, then. And what you suggested I do is a streetscape. So we did a streetscape, which I think demonstrates if you needed a justification, I think we've given it to you. There's only one building on this side of the street in this block that meets sky exposure plane, and we're actually significantly less intrusive than most of the other houses.
So I mean, I think that I'm going to do something which I don't like when other people do, but the way I interpret this is that this rule should not prevent one from building a two-story house. And, you know, this whole street is made up of non-conforming lots and, you know, non-conforming sky exposure plane issues. I think the one big question I have has to do with the proposed construction methodology, meaning the section drawing is exacerbating, you know, your floor construction is exacerbating the problem to some degree, and I don't quite understand
What
if
adds
you're
about
really taking the house down, why a method like that is
Well,
necessary.
because we're proposing this is modular, and when you do modular, you end up with a duplication of structure. You get the ceiling of the bottom box, and you get the floor of the upper box.
Is that the reason that modular houses seem to be kind of overly bulky? Right, as I look around town, you can spot the modular
You can spot
house.
some. I mean,
Well, I'm
if
thinking of a few near me.
Castle Hill Close, the beautiful, amazingly gorgeous home at the end of Main Street, I think that one has a nice feel to it. Not that we know whose that is.
Well, this is
I do have
interesting.
a question,
Do you
though.
have anything?
Yeah, why is the first floor so high? Why couldn't you drop it down? You have, what, 10 feet in the basement?
I don't,
Yeah.
I saw somewhere.
did we, yeah, I mean, what we did is we took the foundation that's there, and we're working with that.
And the
If-
foundation's 10 feet?
It's not 10 feet inside, so I don't know whether we're
I
showing.
understand that probably
10
you
foot
would
floor
like
to
to
floor.
get more light and ventilation in the lower level.
Right.
But it looked to me that you could
If
drop
we've
it.
got 10-foot ceilings, we can definitely drop it a foot without a question. I think we have 10-foot floor to floor.
That building a two-story house here is going to have some
Right.
violation of the sky exposure plane, which I think we're all in agreement is, you know, we're all willing to entertain given the conditions, the neighborhood, you know, the site. So I wonder where we can try to mitigate that as much as possible. The basement, the floor construction method,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, floor-
where can we get at this thing? Because, you know, I think you gotta take it down a little bit. Because it is,
probably
relative
said-
to the neighbors, it is bulkier, it is bigger. And we
This was
want to
when I had
mitigate.
seen it last time, so,
Yeah, well, there shows the dimension.
yeah, let's take a look. So it is 9 feet right now.
Okay.
Do you need 9 feet?
9 feet, the reason we usually try to go 9 feet with a basement is we're gonna have all the ductwork strapped to the underside of the ceiling, and to get it to be usable space in the basement, we usually try to go to 9 feet. That said, I don't know if it's impossible for us to excavate down, because I don't know where the footings are
Is
relative.
this gonna be new? You said it's
We
gonna
were,
be
no,
existing?
we were starting with the presumption that we were working with the existing foundation. But I think there are reasons to maybe think that different, nothing to do with this board, just in terms of what the quality of that existing
Construction
foundation
is,
is.
yeah.
And this is gonna be a great house when it's done. The owners are sitting right there.
Hello.
And we can certainly talk with them about if we can dig down a foot, we could still maintain 9 feet, and we could bring the first floor 1 foot down closer to the grade.
Especially if you're doing a new foundation. you'd
It's
know
very
that.
easy if we're doing a new foundation.
And maybe if you do a compromise somewhere, I see 9 feet, 6 inches, shave off someplace, you would get 2 feet down. And
Yeah.
that would mitigate it tremendously.
Well, you
It
wouldn't,
just has a compromise.
you'd almost not be violating the sky exposure plan. I was,
That would be what,
I
how
would-
about that?
Then
I
you
was
don't need to-
worried-
Then you don't need to.
we'd be an anomaly on the street, and I was worried that we'd be like, you know,
No, but you know what?
excessive,
you-
we'd be excessively dissimilar. I'm joking.
The sky exposure plane is a tool to maintain scale on a street.
Couldn't say
Now,
it better.
The question is, if Maple Street is a context. The context provides you with a, so the violation of the sky exposure plan is within context.
I would agree. But I'm willing to try and get it down a
The
foot.
question is why the sky exposure plane applies in this street. It should.
I think it's a good tool to evaluate, and I think it gives us, and it puts enough pressure on the people in my position that the board can entertain the idea of, could we get the foundation down a foot? And I'm gonna listen, because I know that you've got discretion, and I'm gonna want an approval. So I think there's a usefulness for it in these cases, as long as it's not perceived as an inviolate code of some sort, that you can't violate the sky exposure plan.
Yeah, you're at all our meetings, you see what
But this
happens.
is
I sure have.
But this is an academic question, because
Yeah.
this is where I feel that floor area ratio would really, really, really have to cut down the square.
You and I are
footage
gonna
on
need to
that,
go
so-
to Detroit next year, to the Congress for the New Urbanism, and be
Okay.
on a debate and talk
But
about
anyways,
floor
here
area
we are.
ratios.
It's not the law right now, so.
I am not a fan of floor area ratio, but I understand there's an issue.
I want to.
And Michael doesn't wanna hear about it.
No, because we hear about it every
It's not
meeting.
the platform.
Yeah.
I think, you don't want to be the neighbor that's house is, looming over next door. Not the best way to start off. I think you actually,
but we're
I think
actually shorter.
you have a very nicely designed house. It's going to work really well. I just ask if you can, by hook or by crook, here and there,
Yeah.
shave it down height-wise
Is
a
that
little
something you
bit.
guys are willing to
And you guys
investigate?
can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had enough conversation about, will that foundation really work for everything that you want it to do? If we don't reuse that foundation, we could definitely get
please
it
go.
down a foot. And it would probably be nicer in terms of, coming out of the house, how many steps you are to the ground.
If it
So,
matched.
I think that could be cool. So why don't we say that we're gonna work hard to get it down that foot, and we can work with the building department in that, because we still have to meet all the code requirements.
Great.
And we would be willing to make that conditional, any agreement or approvals that we would get, we would make it conditional upon that effort.
I'm not sure I follow.
In other words, you'd approve it tonight, so we don't have to come
So I
back to
do
you.
follow, yeah.
I mean, we're pretty good with that stuff.
Asking
You've
for a
told
fair
me to
amount
do
of
things.
faith.
And have I ever not done what you
I
asked me to
don't
do?
think you want me to answer that question. I think
On any
that-
project that you've said, I've said I'll
I
do this, I do it.
I don't want to have the conversation.
Okay.
All I want to do is, I would like to see, and I think it can happen in a simple elevation. I don't think you need to do a full, it can be an 8.5 by 11. Show us what you come up with, what's acceptable to your client. I don't want to force you to do a new set of sections and foundation drawings.
We can redo
Just show
the
us an
elevation,
elevation
showing
with what
it
you, I
with it
think I can
reduced
get
the
6
foot.
inches here, 8 inches here, whatever. Add it
Okay.
all up, bring it down, and show us that one drawing, and we'll,
And can we limit that is what it is? In other words, it's almost like we've said we'll make a change, and you've said
if
bring
there
it
are
in for
no
the next
other
meeting.
comments,
Yeah.
let's go through, maybe there are some other
It's
little
only
issues,
one
railings.
comment
Yeah.
on the, when you make the adjustment, we'll review the entire application, but
Yeah.
it will be minor adjustments if. The only question is, why do you have the two separated windows on the second floor?
2 different bedrooms? Oh, to kind of, so that it doesn't look like it's 2 pairs on the front, and it kind of relates to the way the porch roof works. The porch roof centers between those. So kind of, it gives a gesture to the significance of that, which is where the front entrance is. You're driving up the street, you're gonna know where your front entrance is 4 houses away.
The entrance is clear.
It's all part of the same idea, I mean, is there a thing you don't like about 2 windows separated and
It's strange.
together? Yeah, I mean, we've got the 2 centered above the 2, and then we have the 2 split above the porch where we have the single door below. It's gorgeous. the nicest thing I've ever seen.
Look at this. Can you make the same argument on this one? On this mansard?
I think that mansard needs a lot of work.
No, I'm saying, 3 windows, 3,
It's fine.
works.
Yeah,
It's a weight change.
different style house.
No, it's the same principle. Even if you do more windows.
A little bit more modern.
I don't disagree, but it's not a deal breaker, so
Yeah.
use your own judgment.
So we're down to where if we can provide that drawing for you at the next meeting, almost as a confirmation that we were able to make it work.
Okay.
Sound fair?
That sounds good.
That sounds good. Thanks.
This is a,
Are you having the second meeting? What?
I'm not sure. So I'd like to make a motion, we continue 31 Maple to the next meeting. We're gonna see one elevation from Patty, and that's the only issue we're gonna look at that point. Second,
Any questions you guys have?
Yair, seconds, all in favor, unanimous. I believe we are having our meeting, is that right?
No
Yeah.
cancellation, everybody is available on the 24th.
I'm available.
Okay, yeah, we'll be here.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
33 Livingston. Garage,
24th, yeah, yep.
no. 36 Maple Street.
First time in front of your board, so I don't know the procedure, do you want to just have it up in front of you guys?
You could put it on the easel, and that way the camera can pick it up. We have a copy of the drawing, so. Thanks. Just grab the mic and state your name.
My name is Paul Varanauskas. I'm the architect for 36 Maple Street project. The owner is Madeline Bizzari, and it's well, a couple of housekeeping things. I believe we had to get these turned in, Mr. Manley. Right? Yep. And we also had just a piece of the siding that was going to be used as well, and a pin color that goes along with that. So just a little bit of history on this project. Mrs. Bizzari has lived in this house for about 54 years. And she's up there in age. She's one of our senior citizens. And it's being more difficult for her to go upstairs to the bathrooms and all that stuff. So what was intended was to create, just to give you an idea, you do have the plans there, but on the existing plans, we're taking the kitchen area and we're going to be adding a full bathroom downstairs to make life a little easier for her. When we do that, though, we do affect some of the existing windows and the rear door. So you can see we did have a double window out the rear of the house. We are taking out one of those windows in order to fit the bathroom in and rework the kitchen a little bit. We did have to take the rear door and slide it over about 18 inches. And then the window on the side of the house that's existing, we're keeping it in the same location, but we are making it shorter so it can fit above the sink to the kitchen. So in doing all of that, we are affecting, obviously, the outside a little bit, and that's why we're in front of you guys tonight. I guess the main thing that's really happening is that when we make those adjustments on the inside, it affects the siding. This house is smooth aluminum siding, so we're looking to really just weave that back together or replace the portions that we are affecting. You cannot necessarily get the color siding anymore, okay? Aluminum siding now, basically you get what they call kind of repair stock. okay? But they do still make this type, which is what she has. The paint color, which I went and matched as close as we can, and if you take it on different sides of the house due to the sun fading and everything, it's a little different. But this one is actually a very close representation of what is there now. I did give you guys, I believe, a few pictures as well. There's a couple of other pictures, though. This is the siding out the rear of the house right over here. So again, losing a window, doors sliding over, relocating the light fixture. On the side of the house, basically, we are shortening that window.
I think this is a fairly straightforward
Just-
application for us.
Just want to make sure we covered it.
Yeah, no, thank you. If only, yeah, if only the more complicated projects were so clearly documented and presented, our lives would be a lot easier. But I had no comments.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this as submitted. Yeah, your seconds, all in favor, unanimous. Thank you.
We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
17 Cedar Street. No, no. You need extra plan? Yeah. Thank God.
There you go. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night, good luck.
Do I need to use the microphone?
Yes, please. Yeah, it's not for us, it's for the camera.
Craig White's here on behalf of MCW Dobbs LLC for 17 Cedar, the owner. We are submitting our package, which I think you have, for the Golden Dragon replacement sign on the front. We're nearing the conclusion of our project, so this is one of the remaining items. Very simple, black lettering. It will be LED backlit, similar to the Pop Shop type sign that's on the block. It's the same company that was used for that. It has a little thin, like a metal board, so there's a light behind it. It's just going to read Golden Dragon with their telephone number below it.
So it's not an illuminated letter.
No,
It's not like a glowing letter.
behind it there's
It's
a light.
just there's a light that comes out from behind.
Yeah, like a halo is what they call
It's
it.
not a neon.
No,
Oh,
no, there's no neon.
I gotta say, this is a much better sign than the one that was there.
Yeah, unfortunately I have to
And-
pay to replace the old one, but yes.
Well, the building looks great.
Thanks.
It's a really nice addition to.
Did they redo the inside? You know, you don't know.
Did I redo the
No,
inside?
did the owners?
The
We
restaurant.
redid the whole building. We added a third
I
story
know
to
they
the
redid the
building.
whole building, but I don't know if they redid the inside.
I don't have any-
Of the restaurant? Yeah, they did some upgrades to their space, yeah.
Ed, is this, we all good here with this backlit?
The lighting,
Yeah,
individually lit letters is permitted in
Okay.
downtown. The overall height maximum is 24 inches, so 25 should be brought down to 24.
okay.
The 14-inch lettering is acceptable, that's the maximum on the lettering, but the lines, you have two lines, you have the name and the space, and then the phone number is supposed to be a max of 22. That's not called out here. So if you keep that dimension within 22 and bring the sign height down to 1 inch, down 1 inch to 24, we're all good.
The 25-inch height is just the same height as that panel that's there, so it's not the individual sign itself. I guess I'm confused.
Is there a background portion, or are you just mounting the letters onto the
It's
sign
mounted
board?
onto that, the
Just the
background
letters?
board. No, there has to be a housing for the light, so it
Okay,
matches the
so-
exact,
So this square here is allowed a maximum of 24 inches.
I think
This rectangle.
this rectangle is the building, is the sign band. That's how I interpret this.
That's what I'm trying to,
Okay, so you're mounting onto the building?
onto the building.
Okay, that's what I
Okay,
asked.
one second. I'm not
So
sure-
then,
I'm not-
yes.
I'm not sure if we are, the,
Yeah, if
the
you look at
the
if you look at the
25,
picture on
but
the,
here.
of the- yep.
the 25 inches by 187, this is the existing.
That's what's, if you look on this
That's
page.
It's
the raised-
existing.
The raised panel on the
That's the
building?
existing.
That's the panel, that's the sign band.
Okay, that's fine then. So then the dimension, 14 inches of the letters is good, and the dimension from top of letters to bottom of phone number should be 22 max.
Meaning this.
Are you able to say that there's an inch and a half between
Yeah,
the
that's-
top of the G and the bottom of the 9?
That is, I'm presuming that my sign company is going to be within compliance, correct?
So this is, this is what it's saying, the 22 inches maximum, from
20
the top of the G
yeah,
to the
correct,
bottom
yeah.
of the 9.
I think we're probably covered. I mean, the letters are 14 inches, and then it would mean that if these are 8,
Well, the Golden Dragon is, right,
is
is
14,
14
if
inches,
the numbers
but the
are 8
numbers
or-
are less than 8 inches, yeah, that's correct.
and the space in between.
Okay, I'll let them know it has to be within the 22 inches there, otherwise I think we're within compliance, is that
Yes,
correct?
everything else is,
Okay, so just making sure that that's.
just need to call out that 22 inches. So-
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion, we approve this with the condition that the letters, Golden Dragon, the space, and the phone number combined are 22 inches or less. I understand that. It appears to be the case, but just put that into the approval. If I have a second.
For a
Oh.
second, when you say that this is the Sag Harbor gray, that's the existing color on the
Correct.
building? All right, I'll second that.
Yeah, your seconds, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Right.
Thank you.
Last item, 68 Florence Avenue, fence.
Good evening, Alan Sturk, Director of Project Management, Fesco Fence. We're doing a fence for Mr. Ream. I think I owe you one thing, was a photo. That was a sign that gets posted in front of the property. With the application, I gave you drawings of the style of fence that's going to be done.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
I
clear.
think it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, in the application, there's a photo of the fence, but it says they want to back up the fence with a wire mesh
Underneath it.
underneath, not the whole.
No, just below the bottom edge, so that there's no gap. There's a dog involved.
Okay.
That's fine. Make a motion, we approve this as submitted. Yeah, your seconds, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
No minutes in this week's package. Make a motion, we continue the minutes to the next meeting. Yeah, your seconds, all in favor, unanimous. Make a motion, we adjourn tonight's meeting. Yeah, your seconds, unanimous, meeting adjourned.